Brand new Jeff RATH interview just dropped 1 hour ago. I'll be watching this with you for the first time. I may also weave in some clips of my own. Let's take a look.
Joining me now is Jeffrey RATH, General Counsel of the Alberta Independence Petition Project. Jeffrey, I know you spoke to Vassy Kapelos. We had that interview air on CTV's Question Period yesterday. So let me put it to you again, for those that may have missed your conversation with Vassy too. We talked about south of the border, but your...
Literally the best interview I've ever seen on Canadian news, at least in recent memory. Yesterday, Vassy and Jeff...
response to the article that came out from the Financial Times that you were seeking with your talks in U.S. officials about $500 billion worth of credit in order to possibly fund Alberta if and when you gain independence.
Well, first of all, let's be really clear. I mean, Alberta can completely fund itself without any help from the United States. We've already done a feasibility study on that. It's called The Value of Freedom, a draft fiscal plan for an independent Alberta. We send $70 billion a year to Ottawa. We get less than $10 billion a year back in federal transfers, and we get $10 billion in questionable federal services, including national defense, which we know isn't really any defense at all. So we can completely fund ourselves as a free and independent country. The only thing we're doing is conducting a feasibility study on putting in place a credit line to ease us through the transition of cutting off all federal tax dollars going to Ottawa from Alberta and keeping all of the money here in Alberta. I mean, we're very serious people. We're treating this as a very serious project. We're doing our due diligence on behalf of the citizens of Alberta. We are looking forward to the day where we leave Canada and we will be paying no more federal income tax, no more GST, no more carbon tax, and that Alberta will be the lowest taxed, lowest regulated jurisdiction in North America. So that's what we're working forward to. There's obviously, billions of dollars worth of reasons for Alberta to leave Canada, and nobody has ever been able to provide us a single reason that Alberta would be better off if we remained in Canada. And, I put that challenge out to Danielle Smith. I put it out to Mark Carney. I put it out to every provincial premier. Please tell us why Albertans will be so much better off financially if we stay in Canada, when the day we leave, we no longer have to pay federal income tax or any other federal taxes, and will no longer be, subject to federal regulation of our oil and gas industry.
Well, look, that is fascinating. There has not even been that argument made yet that I've seen on the internet. All there's been is hysteria about these meetings with Americans, from Jeff RATH or whoever went down to meet with Americans for this feasibility study. There's been a whole bunch of outrage about that. There's been a few names called to people that are signing this petition. I have not seen anyone lay out the argument for why Alberta should stay in. That's not true. I did see one person, but it was mostly just negative shaming of the separatists. It was that woman wearing the crooked baseball hat we covered a couple days ago. So I guess one person tried to make the case, but aside from that, have you seen anything? Have you seen any cogent arguments on why Alberta has more benefit to stay in Canada than it does to leave? I mean, maybe a few posts here and there on X, but hardly I've seen that.
Just ask you, Jeffrey, too, is it just purely financial? Is that ultimately all this boils down to for you and for your group? Or like, there's other ways to in part of this, but there's so much focus on this financial part of it as opposed to remaining part of the country.
Well, that's a very big part. I mean, that's what they're threatening with. They're threatening us with financial devastation. It's fear on a going forward basis. So we want to show our fellow Albertans and the rest of the world that Albertans will be extremely well off when we leave Canada. We don't need Canada. Canada needs us. But they sure haven't treated us that way, have they? West Coast tanker ban, emission caps, production caps, net zero nonsense coming out of the World Economic Forum, on and on. Every time we turn around, there is some new silly regulation coming out of Ottawa to destroy our industry and destroy our economy.
Okay, quick detour here, then we'll get back to the video. But another way I think you can see how skewed the priorities of Canada have been for quite some time is if you watch Question Period or anything that happens in the House of Commons for the last, 10, 15 years, very rarely is the discussion about economic growth or the oil and gas sector. Canada's priorities have been so backward for so long.
Today I rise in this House to offer an apology on behalf of the Government of Canada for our role in the Komagata-Maru incident. We have failed LGBTQ2 communities and individuals. It is with shame and sorrow and deep regret for the things we have done that I stand here today and say we were wrong, we apologize. What we just saw is climate denialism at its finest. The fact is, as global emissions rise, as carbon intensity in the atmosphere increases, extreme weather events like wildfires, droughts, and floods will simply become more and more frequent. Now, his plan is to do nothing, Mr. Speaker, and let future generations fend for themselves. Our plan is not only to reduce our emissions, but to create the solutions that the world needs while we lead on fighting climate change, bringing down emissions, and growing the economy.
So that party, the Liberal Party, is still in power. Carney was an advisor to Trudeau. What are Albertans supposed to think? When you watch Question Period or the House of Commons, the priorities do not reflect, in my opinion, the priorities of a hardworking person in Alberta that wants to build, wants to do things.
And the weird thing about it that we have such a hard time reconciling is Alberta literally supports the entire country of Canada. We even pay equalization to Ontario, for God's sake. 15 billion to Quebec, half of that to the Maritimes, on and on. And, you know, what do we get for it? We're mistreated. Our oil is referred to as dirty oil. You know, we're just constantly disrespected on an ongoing basis. They want to attack our culture with, things like universal basic income, where they're literally going to destroy the industriousness of our children. I mean, one thing after another. That's why we're leaving. It's not just financial, but Albertans need to know that we are going to be so much better off financially when we leave. That's why we kind of lead with that message. Imagine a nurse married to a policeman. They're both making more than $100,000 a year. In a free and independent Alberta with no more federal income tax, their family income and their take-home pay is going to increase by $40,000 to $60,000 a year.
Well, Jeffrey, let me put this. Yeah, and
the cultural piece is true. There are a bunch of examples you can find just online of people out east making fun of people out west.
For the people in Alberta who want to separate, do you have any tips for them on how to actually get the job?
Our success so far does not place me in a position to give them tips about what to do, but I could give them tips about what not to do. Not now. The first idea is to define oneself as a nation. Therefore, it requires a culture of their own. And I am not certain that oil and gas qualify to define a culture.
It's ridiculous. So at some point, I mean, again, I've been covering this story for a bit now. The more I cover it, the more rational it seems. And I mean, we will see moving forward when/if there will be a push to try to, with logic, convince Albertans to stay in Canada. But I haven't seen that yet. I've seen insults and, oh, this is Trump. That's the fear-mongering I've seen. You're supporting Americans if you do this. You're supporting Trump, blah, blah, blah.
And I understand, again, like a lot of those points. I want to ask you, too, because Melissa Lantsman did say today, we heard from the Conservative Deputy Leader about the possibility of Alberta separating from Canada. I want to play you a clip and then I'm going to get your reaction to it. So let's listen to this.
Sure.
I'm an MP from Ontario in a party that wants to fight for united Canada, one that is resilient, one that wants to stand, one that can stand on its own 2 feet, one that develops our resources, that treats provincial autonomy with respect. I certainly understand the feelings of those, but I don't think anybody should be lobbying anybody on separation. I think we should fight here for united Canada, and that's not what the Liberals are doing. It is up to the Prime Minister to make the argument on separation, and we didn't have this before he was here. For many, many years, we didn't have separation movements.
Okay, so that was, again, earlier today in Ottawa. I just want to get your reaction to that, Jeffrey.
I don't want to be disrespectful to that member of Parliament, but my response is, so what? I mean, it's about time that people in Ontario start paying their own bills, and they can shoulder the burden of the welfare economy of the Maritimes for once. Albertans are tired of it. And, you need to be aware that there's a recent poll that came out that now shows support for Alberta independence at 41%. I actually texted it to your producer. So as our petition campaign goes forward.
Well, this is that poll he's referencing. I'm only going to touch on this very briefly because the video I just did before this one talks about this poll quite a bit, but 41% attitude to Confederation by province. Agree or disagree? I think my province would be better off as an independent country. Again, my prior video talks about that quite a bit. That's a pretty big step. That's the first poll I'm aware of, at least, where the number has started with a 4. I mean, 41, you're within single digits of the target.
And hundreds of thousands of Albertans line up for miles into the cold January nights to sign what they're calling the Alberta Declaration of Independence petition, that Albertans are leaving. I mean, we're serious about leaving. We're determined to go. And, conservative MPs in Ontario, and, talking about national unity isn't going to stop it. Pierre Poilievre's speech at the Conservative Convention in Calgary didn't change anybody's minds. Danielle Smith saying that she's for a strong Alberta within a united Canada hasn't changed anybody's minds. Mm-hmm. We're leaving. I mean, people just need to get their heads around that and starting to plan accordingly.
Let me put this to you then. So again, it's almost 180,000 signatures that you're trying to collect by May.
Again, I predicted maybe 2 weeks ago or something that I think this will be the story in Canada in 2026. I stand by that prediction. It'll, I think, overshadow Trump. It'll overshadow Carney. This to me is going to be the story in Canada. I do not think this is going away. There are so many reasons for Alberta to want this, to be fed up.
The referendum, and it's like a bit of a hypothetical, the referendum goes forward and Albertans say, and they vote in favor of staying in Canada. Are you going to drop this project? Will you drop this movement? Or are you expecting it to continue even if you get to the referendum and it's defeated?
That's a good question.
Well, first of all, we don't think that's going to happen. I mean, as our petition campaign goes forward, more and more people are flocking to our banner. Every time somebody like David Eby comes out and says we're not real Albertans because we support independence. Every time somebody like David Eby calls us treasonous, it reminds another 100,000 Albertans to go out and sign the petition for independence. So at the end of the day, we're confident that we're going to win the referendum. But to be clear, our view is that, in the unlikelihood of a no vote, we just roll up our sleeves and keep working the same that the Parti Québécois does. And maybe at that point, we look at forming a provincial independence party that's credible, to take this forward. But we don't see that happening. I mean, clearly the momentum is on our side. We're only 4 weeks into our petition campaign, and we've already moved the needle in the polls by over 10 points. So, we think by the time we finish our petition campaign at the end of May, that we're going to have over 50% of the population in favor of independence. And certainly then we'll have a 3 or 4 month referendum campaign where we can continue to talk to Albertans about the benefits of not having to pay any more income tax, doubling pensions for our senior citizens instead of paying refugees and temporary foreign workers more than our pensioners, et cetera, et cetera. A free and independent Alberta will be the wealthiest country per capita in the world.
That would be outstanding if independent Alberta could get to that #1 in the world, GDP per capita. That would be amazing.
And that's what we're working forward to. We think it's a very positive project. We're imbued with
a good answer.
Spirit of positivity, and we're very excited about the prospect of creating a new country.
It's a great answer. It's going to be very difficult, I think, in the scenario he says where post-petition and then pre-referendum. I think the pro-Alberta to stay in Canada argument is actually going to be hard to make because people are so tired. I do not think the shaming stuff, racist, anti-immigrant, that stuff, people are going to roll their eyes, I believe. Even immigrants, I think. Everyone is going to not go for that argument. Like maybe that worked kind of 2020, 2021. And then the other thing, I think the tactic will be, oh, you're actually helping Trump. You're helping Trump because if you become independent Alberta, Trump's going to like that. He's going to have so much power over Alberta. That, I think, will be the fear play. But again, I actually don't see that working. I think people are very attuned, very awake to the fear mongering now. There's been 10 to 15 years. I mean, I'm wish casting a little bit. I hope they are. I know there's a lot of Canadians who are still sleepwalking, elbows up, but I think if you have to have a logical argument, it's going to be very difficult for Canada to convince Alberta to stay. Because how has the relationship been going? Alberta has not received equalization since the 60s, even through times when the oil market goes up and down. So I saw a post on X, which I reacted to. Even in the good times and the bad times, Alberta still doesn't get equalization. How, if you want Alberta to stay, are you going to make the argument? It'll be fascinating to watch. I think we're going to get to that part where this petition will pass. Those arguments will be amazing. We will see what happens.
We're about out of time, but I want to ask you just for a quick update. Can you update how many people have signed the petition before I let you go?
Good question. I'm fascinated to see how Jeff is going to answer this. I've been speculating that they have been not wanting to share the number. This is just total speculation from me, because if they released the number and they said, oh, we're at 180,000, we already passed the number, it doesn't really incentivize people to go wait in line to sign it. So that's my speculation, that they're strategically not going to release it. But again, that's just, I'm pulling that out of nowhere. So take that with like a whole bunch of grain of salt.
Before I let you go?
We're well ahead of what we need to get to 200,000 signatures. We're crushing that metric. Our goal is to get well over 1 million signatures,
right?
And we're a bit behind the curve on that because we haven't had enough canvassing badges out yet. But we're going to get there because we're now, as at the end of this month, we're going to be over 5,000 canvassers. We're on our way to a 10,000 canvasser goal.
By the way, there might be rules that say you have to disclose the number at certain checkpoints, but maybe not. I don't know.
As soon as we have our army of 10,000 canvassers ready to go, we're going to unleash an 87 constituency door knocking campaign. And, we're confident that we're going to get to the 1 million signature goal that we set for ourselves.
Jeffrey Rath, General Counsel of the Alberta Independence Petition Project. Thank you for your time today, sir.
No, thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure.
So that was great. I think Jeff Rath should keep doing interviews. He's so good. He's so relatable. He speaks like a real person, but he's also very educated. Like he was saying in that other interview, law school. I think he went to the London School of Economics. I believe he said he has a political science degree and a law degree. I mean, fact check me on that if you want in the comments, but he's clearly smart. He's funny and he talks like a normal human being. So I would say this interview though was not as obviously explosive as the one yesterday, but still an entertaining interview. But with that said, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great day.